What's going on, guys? KayGee here from the Football Capital doing our Round 3 A-League Men's review. Joined again by the boys, Lachie and Joss. Boys, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Us.
Boys, it's, we're just chatting off air, but it was a pretty entertaining weekend in the A-League. And something that, if we looked at our predictions, we're probably way off. But you always sort of get that in the first 5-6 rounds of the A-League. You start to find out where everyone's sort of sitting throughout the season. But still, some surprises, and we'll go through each game. And, look, let's start on Friday night. It was a quick turnaround for our Wanderers, at least Joss. Playing Sunday, coming to Friday. I didn't realise, we were doing that turnaround. But good turnout in numbers from a crowd perspective, and look, probably a slow game to begin with, but the result was the one that we wanted.
Yeah, 3 points, clean sheet. I think it looks a lot better on paper than it actually was. I think it was once again really, really slow start, like you just said, especially from our boys. I think Wellington stretched the game a lot better. I was saying to you at halftime that I actually thought Wellington looked a lot better. They were creating more clear-cut opportunities. And, once again, I'm not really sure about what we're doing, what our attacking identity is. I can appreciate the fact that Kyle Robinson's still trying to sort out his best 11. The defense seems pretty nailed on. But yeah, I was just having a look at these average positions, and for a 4-3-3 shape, if you go from goal to goal across the thirds of the pitch, only Thomas Aquilina and Adama Traore were in the wide thirds, which is really, really narrow for a 4-3-3. Have 9 players inside that middle, and I think you saw that on the game because we kept trying to play through the middle. Wellington kind of parked the bus a little bit, but which you got to expect. Not every team's playing this free-flowing attacking football, and I think that showed. So, yeah.
It was definitely sorry, go Lachie.
I was just going to say, it looked like a much more... I think the Wanderers, in the second half, the Wanderers looked a little bit more impressive. But yeah, you're right. I have to agree. Well, Phoenix were good, especially in that first half. And I think it was Rennie Piscopo that had a couple of decent chances towards the end of that first half. But yeah, I was actually pretty surprised to see. I guess not surprised considering that Petratus didn't perform the best in those opening 2 weeks. But it was interesting to see sort of that 4-3-3 formation. I reckon it works for you guys. I imagine that Kyle Robinson will play that going forward, eh?
Yeah, I was quite pleased with, we probably predicted 2 out of the 3 changes, or the ones that we wanted to see anyway. Having maybe Antonis, not that he necessarily played further up, but that's how it was presented pre-match, with Rodwell coming in for, who was it, for Dimi, essentially. And then the Ogoa change as well, with Nadreen, sort of seeing himself out. And I still wanted to see that change at right back. I know that obviously we got the result, but I still felt like Aquilina still didn't have his best game, was tested at times. And, calling out for Ziggy Gordon or even Tate Russell to just take that spot. But it's going to be hard now to try and change that 11 coming off the back of a win. But still, if we, I agree with both of you lads. The first half wasn't pleasing to any, whether the neutral or whether to a Wellington fan or to a Wanderers fan. It was quite poor, and I think we got that sort of vibe in the stadium. Other than the fact that the active support was going absolutely nuts, and they were chanting through halftime as well, which was quite pleasing to see. So they gave it their all, and to see Hamed finally break the deadlock, I should say, from a half chance, really, something where you could have even been pulled up for a foul if you looked at some of the footage with Reece Williams coming in over the top. Controversial? What do you boys reckon? Because it was checked by the VAR.
Yeah,
VAR.
The tricky thing is, like, in the A-League, I'm not sure whether it was a foul or not, but whether the ball crossed the line, I think is the question. And it's tricky in the A-League. Obviously in the Premier League, they've got the actual goal line technology. I'm not actually sure what is involved in goal line technology. I don't know if you guys know, but whether there's like sensors or something. it makes it tricky. Because there's no clear camera angles that showed that it actually crossed the line. There was a couple like keyframes that they showed where it looked like it was over the line. Don't know whether it was just an optical illusion.
You couldn't say guaranteed it was over the line, right? And that's what makes this a little bit sketchy, because normally he didn't rule a goal to begin with. So normally with VAR, whatever the on-field decision is, if it's inconclusive that you could change it, then you stay with on-field. So to say that that ball went over the line, I mean, I'll take it as a Wanderers fan. I'm sure Joss will as well, but wasn't conclusive.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think the whole VAR, especially in the Prem, is like clear and obvious error. And I just can't see that being a clear and obvious error. Like Lachie was saying, there's some camera angles where it really does look like it was cleared, maybe even before the line, not even on the line. But yeah, like it's really, I feel like it's not really that hard to sort out. Couldn't they sort out a camera angle which is just on the goal line, kind of like they do have in the Prem that stems from the corner flag to corner flag, like that sort of thing? I feel like that would, provide a little bit of clarity.
I think just, if we touch on, Channel 10, Paramount Plus, that whole setup, I don't think they've got it quite right at the moment. There was footage from the Melbourne victory game as well, where there was a penalty given to Jason Davidson really late on. And I'm not saying that they got the decision wrong. I'm just saying that there wasn't enough camera angles to probably, suffice whatever decision they were going to go with. I think this is the same thing, right? I don't know whether or not they've got their shit together from a coverage perspective in providing all those angles, because it seems like, not that it's not a low budget thing, but it's just that they haven't quite worked out, hey, where do these cameras need to be in order for us to get I guess footage, the best footage of all the goals. Because even Hamer's goal last week against Newcastle, I thought they could have had the reverse angle of the ball curling into the goal, which they didn't have. So I don't know if that's a Channel 10 thing. I don't know, boys, your thoughts? Maybe you haven't thought about it.
I haven't thought about it too much, to be honest. But it would certainly help, ease the mind of fans if there was, as Josh said, to have like a camera that's sort of in line with the goal line. And I imagine it's just a logistical thing, like trying to get a camera, in each of the stadiums to have one set up there. It would certainly be a good thing, but hopefully it's something that they look at, especially considering that there has been a number of decisions now, I feel like in recent weeks, where there has been, if there was just a clearer angle, it would help out a lot, hey?
I agree.
Big time. Touching on the second goal, because I've you sort of see it happen. You've seen goalkeepers go up for corners and become the hero, and at the same time, on TV, you've probably seen it happen where the other team breaks away. I've never actually physically seen one live, and it was sort of. It was sort of the end of a horse race, right? Because you just saw Johnny Contrumbus running with that ball, and you're like, he's gonna make it, and he gets there. But it was I think it got everybody in the stands cheering, at least the Wanderers fans. I've criticised the Wanderers around how they've defended the corners before, in terms of having all 11 people in the box. Obviously, in this situation, keeper was out, but I don't know, thoughts on how that all panned out.
I just thought it was hilarious. I thought it was ridiculous that Ollie Sale went up when I'm pretty sure there was like 2 minutes still to go in the game. And I was literally thinking that. I was like, if Wanderers clear this, they're away. And I just think keeper should only go up if it really is the last kick of the game, and it cost them in the end.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it might have even been longer than that, but it's funny what you say, KayGee, about like a horse race. You could even see Tommy Aquilina riding him home. He's like, "Come on, you got this." But I think that's more on the point just of the two goals in general. I think it's a little bit concerning, because I don't actually think the Wanderers, we haven't actually cut open a team and made a goal ourselves this season. Even the two goals against Newcastle were just sloppy defending from Matt Yerman, and then Tom Hamed nicked the ball as well and just kind of went in and scored. So that's a little bit concerning for me. I think the first goal was a bit reminiscent of that Gary Hooper goal against Mariners last week, where it was just kind of not dealt with the first or the second time, and it falls to a player in the box, and we get that goal. So we'll take it, but still a little bit concerning for me personally.
Yeah, because if you look at it from a fan perspective, the boys haven't quite hit their straps. We're still not convinced in regards to you mentioned Dimmy coming off the bench. Nadri's now come off the bench. So again, Robinson quite hasn't found what he's looking for. Rodwell finally gets his first full match, or what was almost a full match. But yeah, it is. I want to say it's worrying signs. There's room for improvement. There's room for us to get it right. I'm just glad that from a Western Sydney Wanderers perspective, we've got 5 points out of 3 games. We should probably have more, to be honest, looking at the Newcastle game. But you've got to take the win. It was good to have the fans there travelling down to Wollongong on a Friday night. There was a bit of a post-match interview with Tate Russell that on a certain red and black channel that didn't quite go according to plan, which was quite fun to see. But nonetheless, the Wanderers pick up the points. They go into a game against Macarthur this Saturday night. I think it's a doubleheader at Combank. The A-League women's are also playing beforehand. So it'll be good to see that game live, and hopefully we continue to get the fans into the stadium. And you know what? I think from watching all the other games on TV, I thought the fan presence was there this round. We'll touch on the Brisbane Adelaide game in a second, but I was really impressed with how many people got out to the matches.
Yeah, 100%. I think just quickly, I think it'll be interesting, as you touched on before about the lineups. I think it'll be interesting to see how we line up tomorrow night against Apia. Whether Kyle Robinson rotates some stuff and tries something new. Maybe Ziggy Gordon, Tate Russell come back into the defensive line. I think a lot of people have been calling for that, as you said before.
Tass might get some game time. Tass Mutakurtas, he might play.
Yeah, he came on the last few minutes as the 6, didn't he? Which I thought was a bit interesting. I thought we were going to go back to a back 5, but he just kind of held it down in midfield, and he looked quite bright for the few minutes that he was on the pitch.
And hopefully Margushin goals. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But hopefully to set our rotation, I believe if the Wanderers win the match, they end up playing Central Coast, right?
Yes,
correct. In the quarterfinals. So, boys, we might have to tee something up there where we're watching this game live somewhere, hopefully at the stadium. But we'll look forward to that. We've still got to get through the hurdle of Leichhardt. And again, depending on the rotation, you just don't know what's going to happen in the Cup. But we will move on. We'll move on to the Brisbane Roar versus Adelaide United match. Whilst it was a goalless draw, it was quite entertaining still to watch. It's Yengi, I believe, the striker for Adelaide. I think just a little bit off the pace to nail some opportunities, but it was still a good watch. Really interested to see Miljuznic, how he plays for Brisbane as well. Just a couple of players I touched on when I watched the game, and I thought, with these two players in the match, I thought there would have been a goal, but we weren't lucky enough to see one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the shooting stats for Adelaide United, I think they had 1 shot on target out of 13, which is horrendous. Like, that's shocking. And obviously the question around who's going to lead the line for Adelaide United has been a question for not just this season, but many seasons. And obviously it's Cassini Yengi who sort of has to step up this year. There's still question marks whether he's going to be that guy that can score like 15 plus goals. And I think he has the potential to be that guy. He's tall, he's strong, and he grabbed a couple goals last year. But yeah, they're really going to need the likes of like Halloran and Goodwin to chip in with goals if they're going to win games. It's a funny one for Adelaide United, 3 draws to kick off the season. They haven't been poor by any means, but they just probably haven't been clinical enough. Like even last week against Melbourne City, they started the game really well and just weren't able to sort of finish off the chances that they had early on in the game. Like they could have been up by an early goal, which might have been a different result in the end. And then for Brisbane Roar, disappointing for them considering that they lost their first 2 games. They would have hoped to have gotten 3 points at home after a shaky start to the season. So, they're stuck at the bottom of the ladder, but obviously still early days. So they can certainly still bounce back, Brisbane.
Sorry, Josh, I was going to let you go there.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. I was just about to agree with everything Lachie said. I think you're spot on about where are the goals coming from this season. I think Stefan Mork chipped in with about 8 goals last season as well. So that's super important. I think Adelaide, they play really nice football, but as you said, it all just breaks down in that final third. George Blackwood isn't really that guy either. I think they could probably utilise Motor. I'd like to see Moture utilised a bit more, perhaps from the start. But yeah, like I believe in Cassini personally. I think he's a very good footballer. I think he is probably one of the better young players in the league. It's just whether he can start to really fire in that final third. I do agree with you, Lachie. I don't think he can be a 15-goal striker. I think he will need the burden shared around the team. But yeah, positive signs for Adelaide. I think they're one of 3 teams that are unbeaten still. You know, it's not the worst result in the world. I think James Delianov had an absolute blinder.
I agree, and to be honest, like I think it was a fair result in the end, considering on how the game sort of panned out. I don't think either team was a standout enough to say, "Hey, we're going to claim the 3 points." What I will say is, Ivanovic had a chance that was saved pretty much off the line, but I don't know how he managed not to put that in the back of the net. Like that, there was a lot of times in this game where the cutback ball was played into the box. Both teams sort of utilized it, but I just don't know how he didn't put it in the back of the net. And I was like, that's the difference between, you know, an Ivanovic, a Yengi, and say somebody like a McLaren or a Fornaroli, or, you know, and that's why you got to invest in at least one of those strikers where it's just second nature to them to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think that's where both of these teams struggled on the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And sorry, you go.
I think like you said, Adelaide's one shot on target came from Moture breaking down the right, cutting that ball back to Cassini, and it was blocked as well. So it wasn't even like a goalkeeper save. So I think that was more concerning a little bit for Adelaide in that final third. But Brisbane, Luka Ivanovic getting his chance from the start. Cyrus Demi comes out of the team, and I'm not sure if he completely grabbed this game as he would have liked to.
Yeah, because like Ivanovic had, you know, a couple decent cameo appearances and like in the first couple of rounds and deserved his start here. But yeah, I think that's the concern for Brisbane now. And, you know, I know we're going to touch on the Western United Melbourne City game in a second, but I'm starting to think now letting Dylan Wenzel-Halls go. I don't understand that decision. And you know, Wenzel-Halls has scored 2 goals in 2 games now. It's looking at Brisbane Roar. I mean, whether Lascano, this Argentine striker who, you know, has sort of been in and out with injury a little bit, we haven't really seen anything of him yet. And they've got, as Cyrus Demi in there as well. There's a concern for Brisbane in terms of what are they going to do up top. They've got Miliosnic there as well, but yeah, who's going to be the one to step up? It's still yet to be seen, which is a concern.
I always saw Miliusnic as a supplier, not necessarily a finisher, or, you know, his time at Adelaide United, he was an influence on the game always, but he wasn't that person to get your 10, 15 goals or play that striker position. I think he sort of played, I don't know, it was weird because most of the time for that cut across or that ball across the box, it almost looked like he was like a second striker in a sense, but again, I think he's just a lot more creative than he is a finisher. But we'll see how it all pans out. I think a fair result in the end for that one. Boys, if I could talk about a game of 2 halves, we'll touch on the Sydney FC versus Newcastle Jets match. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't watching this game live. I did watch the replay, and when I was checking my live score, I was like, fuck, Sydney's up 2-0. They're going to run away with this game. And then Matt White taps me on the shoulder and he goes, hey, you wouldn't believe it, but Jets have pulled 2 back. And I was like, oh, wow. I watched the replay. This game could have gone either way. It could have ended up 3-2 or, you know, 4-2 for either team if they took their chances.
Yeah, I'll go first. So for this one, it was an interesting one because, you're right. Sydney FC, as you said, looked like they were going to run away with it there. And to have that 2-goal lead, it was like, you know, especially there was a little bit concerned the fact that they hadn't scored a goal in the first 2 rounds. And then from there, you'd expect Sydney FC to go on with it. They're usually pretty strong at finishing off games. But this just goes even more further to confirm that maybe Sydney FC are going to slip this year. It was very uncharacteristic for them to, you know, take their foot off the pedal, and they looked pretty lethargic towards the end there. I know they had the disallowed goal, the VAR drama around Lafondra's disallowed goal, but, you know, credit to Jets, who looked really impressive in that second half. And Valentino Yule, what a guy, what a player, snatching a point back for the Jets, eh?
Yeah,
Josh, I'll let you jump in there, just because I got my thoughts on you.
Tino, he's a big baller. I love that guy. I've said this from early in the season. I think he was great last year as well when he was linking up with Roy O'Donovan. Now he's getting his chances from the start the last couple of weeks, and boy, has he taken them. Newcastle, I think we're starting to see a bit of this. I've said it before over on Sunday Ballers that obviously Pappas worked under Ange Postecoglou, and I think we can start to see that attacking identity coming out. I think Jets had a lot of the ball in this game, especially in the first half. I think they had about 70% possession, which is huge against Sydney, but it's about what you do with it, isn't it? I think Sydney dominated the first half in terms of chances and obviously goals, but we said a couple of weeks ago, Spiff said Newcastle Jets are going to be one of the most exciting teams to watch after the F3 derby. And I think they're proving to be that. I think the way they came back into it showed character to get back into the game. And Sydney now winless after 3, pretty concerning for the Sky Blues, which makes me a little bit happy, can't lie.
I can't wipe the grin off your face, mate, or mine. I was just going to touch on look, amazing what he did with the 2 goals, right? I actually thought that he had probably a couple more chances in that game to probably, pick up a third or pick up his first one a lot earlier. He did have those chances, but my God, what he did to Ryan Grant, I think it was on the second goal. That's the Socceroos right back. It was mentioned in commentary, but I was like, I actually said it before the comment was made on TV. I'm like, he just ripped him. He just absolutely went past him and blasted him back in the net. Could Redmayne have done better? I mean, goalkeepers are sort of there to protect their front post, but I think Redmayne stayed really low. And obviously it was a high shot above him. Can you blame him? Maybe, maybe not. But, exciting youngster. It just proved the point that the week before against the Wanderers wasn't a fluke for him. It wasn't something that was just, his one-off game where he ripped Aquilina. He's done it now to 2 right backs. He's made them look silly. So, really exciting stuff for the Jets, and I'm glad that they pulled 2 back.
For sure.
Boys, moving on to the last game on the Saturday night. Now, this one is, I think some of us spoke about it, and maybe we didn't actually go ahead and predict the win, but it was a massive one. And I know, Lachie, you touched on it in one of your. Oh, actually, sorry, I was going to move on to the. No, it is the Melbourne Victory game, right? No, sorry, Melbourne Western United game. Apologies, Melbourne City, Western United. I know you touched on it in one of your 60-second previews and the other work that you do on the Coast Watch Football. It was going to be an upset, but we sort of knew that they could do it. So really interesting to see that. Diamante, what a ball, first of all. Weighted perfectly, just the experience of the man. And you mentioned that Josh Wenzel-Halls, him leaving Brisbane and then putting that ball into the back of the net, a just reward for a really good move. And then for them to see out the match, take 1-0 result, big one in a Melbourne derby. Yeah,
I think it was Lachie that actually said that thing about Wenzel-Halls, but I'll back it.
Sorry, I meant him leaving Brisbane, right? I think you mentioned, what were Brisbane doing, letting him go, right?
No, that was Lachie.
It was Lachie. Apologies.
But I back it as well because I've always spoke very highly of Wenzel-Halls.
Wenzel-Halls.
I think he's a serious finisher. Like when you talk about like number 9. Getting in behind, he scores goals. That's what he does. And I think the fact that he took that shot so early, I think Curtis Good was just trying to delay, and he took the shot on early. Tommy Glover, a little bit short-sighted because of the defender in the way, and it was a great finish, like nestled in the side netting. Beautiful finish. And as you said, Diamante, what a ball. He's a serious player. I think he's like 37 or something, and Johnny Aloisi was saying that he hasn't missed a game of training. He's been the most professional player at the club and he's still hungry for success. And I think that could take Western United a long way this season because I've always thought John Aloisi was a little bit unlucky in the way that he feels like he kind of got booted out of Brisbane after playing some good football there. So I think Western will be dangerous this season.
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree. Like after seeing this performance and especially defensively, like Leila Lacroix at the back, like he's proving he could be the signing of the season. The dude is massive and he barely gave much time to the likes of, Jamie McLaren, Matt Leckie. They, City were like creating chances and like finding good field position, but it just wasn't clicking for them. And I think it is credit to West United and the way they set up in that sort of 4-2-3-1 formation. And Dylan Wenzel-Hall's up top. They've got this Serbian striker Prijovic, who they've brought in, and he was out, I think, again for this game, but featured last week, I'm pretty sure. But Dylan Wenzel-Hall, as I mentioned earlier, 2 goals in 2 games. Yeah, I don't know how Prijovic is going to get a look in if Dylan Wenzel-Hall can keep up this form, and especially when there's someone like Diamanti supplying him. If they can keep up, if they can get that partnership going this season, West United are going to finish in the top 6 this year for sure.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, talking about Western United, I'm going to be honest. I didn't pick them in my top 6. They were a bottom 6 side for me. I always thought they were going to be that pesty side, but perhaps it's not going to be like that. Perhaps we might have to, I might have to pay them a little bit more respect than I've showed them in the first 3 rounds, and go. I think for me, John Aloisi, a bit of a question mark from him as a manager. I know that he had a better stint at Brisbane Roar, but I can't get away from what happened at Melbourne Heart or Melbourne City. He had that 14-15 game streak where he didn't win a game. So, the jury's still out in terms of, his managerial career, but he learns, just like anybody. You learn from your mistakes, and it looks like he's found some combinations that are working for him. And you know what? Western United might be a team to watch out for, but I think bigger than that is Melbourne City. A loss off the back of a draw, and I believe the week before the first round they played Brisbane and got a little bit lucky not to concede that second one. So maybe that front 3, Leckie, McLaren, Naboo. They might have to get the ball rolling soon, boys. Otherwise, it might spell some trouble for Melbourne City. Yeah,
I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, even with the Sydney FC thing, because I just think the whole league has leveled up this season. We've talked about it a lot. I think it's going to be the most competitive A-League season that we've perhaps ever seen, all over the table as well. Like for the wooden spoon, for those sneaking top 6 spots, top 2, top 4, and I think it's really showing early doors. I know Melbourne City are still trying to sort out this whole trio of stars up top. I think Naboo was quite bright again. I think he almost pulled off his little Quaresma top corner shot again. Just blocked. What a save by Young. Yeah, very good save by a very good goalkeeper as well. Another one that you question why Brisbane Roar let him go, because like Jamie Young is probably one of the better goalkeepers in the league, I would say. So I think it's too early to say it's panic signs for Melbourne City, because they still realistically, they dominated the game, they dominated the chances, but it's just about what you do with the ball. You've got to put the ball in the back of the net.
And if you don't, sorry, Lachie, go for it.
Nah, I was just going to add in as well. I don't know if I said this on last week's show, but I cannot wait for the Melbourne derby, which I think is just in a couple of weeks' time. And Melbourne victory, Melbourne City. That's going to really be like whoever wins that. I think that's going to sort of give us a really early indication in terms of which side, like a Melbourne City, going to continue the same success they had last year. So can't wait for that one.
Yeah, and look, again, you touched on Brisbane Roar letting go of Jamie Young, and you spoke about the condensed ladder that we're probably going to see with all the teams leveling out. Even with Brisbane Roar, they lose to the reigning champs. They lose to Victory, who we thought were red hot, which we're about to touch on in one of the later games. And then, they pick up a point against Adelaide. So it's not all doom and gloom, even for the teams towards the bottom of the ladder. There's still a lot of hope there and still a long time to go. So it'll be interesting. Moving on to the Macarthur versus Central Coast game. Now, Lachie, I don't know, did you end up getting down there to Penrith for this one?
Actually, well, this actually ended my run of sort of consecutive away games. So I watched this one from up on the coast. But it was, it was a very similar one from a Mariners point of view, it was a very similar game to the Wellington Phoenix game from last round, where we played really well. We were in the game, we were creating chances, the signs were there, but it's just something not missing, in the final third. And again, Macarthur, credit to Macarthur, who defended really, really well and who are now sit top of the ladder after this result. So they've got a good structure there, and defensively, I mean, they've got Mariappa arriving as well from, former former Premier League defender, to strengthen that side even more. So, but yeah, from a Mariners point of view, just can't wait to get back home this week against Sydney FC. I think it's going to make a big difference for us. I feel like as well in games like this, these last 2 games with Mariners where we've lost these games, having that home crowd is going to push us to find that equalizer or to find that winner. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to make the difference because, we're 1 win, 2 losses, but all of the performances have been really solid. So, very much looking forward to the first home game this weekend.
And a little bit disruptive with injury from memory to the replacement goalkeeper because Birighitti, I think, picked up a red card midweek in the FA Cup. And then, look, credit to the young fellow who came in after him. I'm just trying to remember his name, but
Lawrence Caruso.
Can't fault the bloke. He comes in and does a job to keep Macarthur at 1-0 as well. I was actually, I always gun for that, for the debut player. I always want to see them do well. I don't want them to see them broken. My heart went out to the person who was standing in for Birighitti. And then you're like, okay, well, you know what? It's a matter of circumstances, but 2 debuts and Tongi got injured as well. Early on, right? So a little bit of disruption to the squad. There was a change made at halftime by Nick Montgomery as well.
Yeah, and Tongi has actually been the interesting one who, across a number of Mariners fans, everyone's in agreement that he's been a bit shaky so far this season. And yeah, he came off with a slight niggle as well against Wellington Phoenix, a little injury that he picked up there as well. So hopefully he's all good. And, we've got a couple injuries in the squad at the moment with Matt Simon, Nikolai Muller out of the squad as well. And obviously, Yaron Souza, the backup goalkeepers now, apparently tore his hamstring, which is just terrible news. But yeah, so it's going to be great to have Mark Birighitti back this weekend as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and Joss, do you want to touch on the Sunday Ballers curse? Bozanic, we were talking about how well he plays for Central Coast, and then we end up with a known goal.
Yeah, look, it's happened again. Maybe he's not so underrated. Maybe he's underrated.
Unlucky.
I still think he had a very good game. I think he controlled the midfield for Central Coast. And like Lachie was saying, I was sitting at home watching it before I went to work, and I couldn't believe that they didn't have the lead before halftime. I think, on another day, they could have been 2 or 3-0 up within 35 minutes. Just that scuffed shots from Cy Goddard and Urenia. It's really disappointing, but some very good saves as well. Let's not get it twisted. I think Philip Curto had a very good game. So did that Lawrence Caruso. And I feel really bad about that Bozanic going goal because, to come in on your debut, 17 years old, and that's the goal that sees you, defeated. It's a little bit disappointing for the young lad, but, we move.
Again, you want to see them do well. But what I've got to say about that second half, when I watched that second half opened up and it was every 10 minutes, it was shifting. Momentum was shifting so much. It was 10 minutes for Central Coast, 10 minutes for Macarthur. And I just thought, you know what, this game is still in the balance. That goal was, a little bit unlucky, fortunate for Macarthur, but Central Coast weren't out of the game. And I was like, okay, well, let's see how this pans out. Obviously, it still ended up with a 1-0 loss. But as a Central Coast, if I was a Central Coast fan, I'd be saying, well, we weren't out of it at any point, considering the changes that need to be made to the squad during the game. So I don't know. Lucky thoughts? What's the sort of consensus amongst the Mariners fans?
Oh yeah, 100%. Everyone's in agreement that the performances are there, and yeah, both Wellington Phoenix. I think we deserved a draw. This game, we definitely deserved a draw at least. Yeah, with the chances we created at the end. If it wasn't for Philip Curto, who made some fantastic saves, we could have picked up a couple late goals there, and come away with a result. It's and it's tricky from a Mariners point of view to put your finger on what is going wrong. I think I brought it up in last week's show as well. Matt Simon, just without his physicality up top, once again, it just showed in this game. We've got Mateus Maresh and Marco Urenia, 2 players who are sort of similar in the way they play. They like to get on the ball. They'll drop deep. They're very pacey. They take players on, but there's no target man like Matt Simon to bring down the ball to get those other guys involved. And we're missing that at the moment. So we're having to create chances from, different avenues, and it's costing us at the moment. But yeah, like I said, the performances are there. It's promising stuff. We're very optimistic, but after 2 consecutive losses in the league, Mariners fans are going to expect nothing less than a win this weekend against a Sydney FC side who are struggling at the moment as well.
Come on, Central Coast. Bloody, I never thought I'd say that, but come on, Mariners. Let's jump into the last game of the round. Probably the biggest upset of them all. Definitely was impacted by a red card that saw Melbourne Victory go down to 10 men. Tony Popovic's side was still in it, but didn't quite recover once the first goal went in. And, a couple of classy finishes when it comes to goals for both. Is it Burke? I don't know how to say. I know it's Burke. I think it's Burke Gilroy, but Burke and Fornaroli does it again. I sort of looked at those 2 goals and I'm like, does the Melbourne keeper have a problem diving to his right? I don't know. Let's discuss.
I think the Fornaroli one was a stinker, to be honest. I heard whoever's in commentary related it to his opening day goal against Adelaide, which I think that was a fantastic strike. Don't think there was any save in this one, but it almost looked like the ball went through his hands, like he glitched the goalkeeper. But Bert Gilroy's strike, that was chef's kiss, right?
Wow. And you know what?
Oh, beautiful.
What I was going to say about that, I think his assist was better than his goal.
Yeah,
I think that ball he whipped in was like crazy. That's like you don't see that every day in the A-League. I know it's just a cross, but the delivery, the whip, the pace, he clearly a man of the match for me in that particular game. Thoughts on the red card?
Definitely a red for me. And I know there's been a lot of debate around it, but I can't see how it's not a red. And yeah, like 100% there's no malice in it. But from the camera angles I saw, I know we were talking about camera angles before, but I think all the angles were clear in this one. And like for me, the studs made contact with his head and it has to be a red card. I can't see any way around it, to be honest.
Joss?
Yeah, agree. 100%. I don't think there should be a whole lot of debate about it. If your foot's that high, it doesn't matter if you're looking at the ball, putting other people in compromising situations and dangerous situations. And red.
I'm going to put a spanner in the works a little bit, boys. Whilst I'm not going to argue with the red in terms of was there enough to overturn it. I don't think so. The only thing I was trying to look at was where were his eyes when he made contact? Was he looking at the player? Was he looking at the ball? Like where was he looking? And I think at the same time, yes, it can definitely be a red, and I'll totally support the decision of a red. At the same time, if it had been a yellow, I would have been like, well, one, I know that Lachie touched on it, no malice, but the other part is he's focused on the ball, right? His foot should never be that high. I agree. He's made contact with the face, which is why the red. I just think that if there was going to be a debate, it was going to be about whether or not he knew the player was there. And yes, he's done the wrong thing, so off you go. Change the whole match for me.
Yeah, 100%, which is the only disappointing thing about it, because I think Victory was still playing quite well. And, if that happens to a Wanderers player, I'm screaming red card, 100%.
100%.
But if we do it to someone, I'm like, oh, that's a yellow.
That was my exact point. I was like, oh, but he's looking at the ball. Like, I don't want Borcher to be right this round, like he was bragging about Perth glory, and they pick up a really good win, and they ran away with it. Once they got the first one, they never looked back. And Richard Garcia masterclass against Tony Popovich doesn't happen every day.
No. Well, I actually thought Melbourne Victory was still very impressive with 10 men. I thought they were ticking it round well. I think Ben Falami had another good game. I think you can really start to see the Popovich DNA coming through this Victory side, which is, a far cry from what they were last season, and really good. I touched on it last week. Really good to see the Victory fans back in there, packing out the stadium again. I think it was another like 14,000 fans or something, which is funny because it was 13,000 last week, 14,000 this week. I just wonder if it's going to be 12,000 next week and see them
because of the loss.
Ebbs and flows. But no, I think Victory was still very positive. So in terms of like a game-changing moment, 100%. And like you said, when Anthony Burgoyne got that first goal, I think the Perth Glory just really took it from there.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, you go, Lachie.
I was just going to say massive 3 points for Perth Glory as well, considering that they've got, I really feel for them again with their run of away games. And this game for me was like the easiest one to predict after Melbourne Victory started the season. I was like, for sure they're going to win. And, we've all got egg in our face now. So just massive performance for Perth Glory. And it just goes to show there's more evidence as to why this league is going to be so competitive this season. If Perth Glory are picking up 3-0 wins against the strong Melbourne Victory side, it's going to be entertaining.
Yeah, try pick a winner every round. It's going to be a tough one. But I did want to touch on the point from Joss in regards to the home end, especially that noise they made at that stadium. Envious, in regards to not being able to experience that atmosphere on that day. I know the RBB does quite well, but that was you could just hear it through the television. You saw the passion. Questionable about the attendance. It might have been maybe because they might have been seeing Daniel Sturridge. You don't know. Interesting to see if that goes up or if it dips, but only time will tell. But regardless, I think it's been a good 3 weeks for the A-League. Being that it is so competitive, hopefully it drives people to the games, gets them more interested in the league, and we just continue to see some great football because there was some really good goals over the weekend. What we will do now that we've wrapped up round 3, we'll go into some predictions and hopefully we'll have a little bit more luck this time around with our predictions, and we'll see how they go. So what we'll do is I'll read them out, and Josh, you can go first, and then Lachie, and then myself. But it kicks off with Melbourne City at home to Perth Glory.
I think I've said it a couple of weeks in a row now. I think this is the game where City kick into gear, and it's 3-0 City.
3-0 City.
Honestly, I'm the same. I'm the same. Even though Perth Glory were impressive last week, Melbourne City, they've just got too much quality. There's no way they're going to slip. I think Sydney FC are a chance of slipping away this year, but Melbourne City, they can't. I reckon they'll be too strong in this one. I'm going to go 2-0.
Look, I won't hear the end of it if I don't back my mate Borcher a little bit. So I'm not going to go for a Perth result, but I will go for a draw. I'm going to call a 1-1 draw in that one. Another good match. It'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. Newcastle Jets versus Wellington Phoenix.
I said 3-1 Jets. I reckon they can pull away in this game if they can keep up their attacking football, free-flowing attacking football. I don't know if the Phoenix will be able to handle it, so I'll say 3-1.
I'm gonna go 1-0 Jets. 1-0 Jets. I reckon maybe someone like Beckham Mikuladze grabbing a goal for the Jets. Yeah, I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 to the Jets. I think they're just going to have too much for Wellington. They're building on some really good momentum after two decent results, and they've got goals in them, so hopefully 2-0. Western United versus Brisbane Roar. Will Brisbane Roar finally get off the mark and get a win?
No, is the short answer. I reckon revenge for Johnny Aloisi's back with vengeance. I said 2-0. And I reckon Diamanti scores them both.
Too much quality for Western United for Brisbane. So I'm gonna go 2-0 Western. Yeah.
Boys, not a clean sweep here. I'm going to go draw. I reckon Brisbane have sort of been a little bit unlucky. They're gonna pull a result here. I'm going to go 1-1 draw as well in this one. Let's see how that one pans out. A fixture that always gets highlighted on the fixture list at the start of the season: Adelaide United versus Melbourne Victory. Thoughts?
This is a really tough one, I think. Adelaide need the win. Victory need to bounce back as well. I'm going to say a 4th draw in the row for Adelaide. I reckon 1-1.
I'm going to continue that trend as well. I reckon the draws are going to keep going. I think it could be 2-2. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I reckon maybe a red card or two for sure.
Wow, red card or two. Okay, well, look, if you're calling a couple of red cards, mate, then I'm going to go for the draw, but I'm going to go for a 3-3 draw. It's going to be a thriller. it's going to be a thriller at Cooper Stadium, and hopefully Robbie's there to see it all unfold. Okay. We've got a somewhat of a Sydney derby to follow up. Western Sydney Wanderers versus Macarthur Bulls.
Yeah, look, I said last week I didn't do Western Sydney predictions, but I'm worried about this game because I think Macarthur they've still got a lot of gears to click into, but I'm going to say 1-1. 1-1, yeah.
My prediction's a bit of an unpopular one. I mean, you never like to predict nil-alls, but I've got a feeling that this could be a nil-all game. I feel like both sides' defense has been a highlight for both teams across the 3 games, in my opinion. So I don't know. I've got a feeling this one will just end a scoreless draw.
1-0 to the red and black. I'm going to leave it at that. 1-0 to the red and black. I agree with I don't think there'll be many goals in it because both teams have been quite sound defensively. But we'll take the 1-0. We'll run away with the 3 points. And if we're good enough, we'll take top spot on the ladder depending on other results. But finalising the round, Central Coast Mariners, Sydney FC. I'm going to go first. 5-0. Central Coast. No. Sorry, Joss, I'll go last.
I think Central Coast will win. I think 2-1. I think, as you said, Sydney have been shaky. Mariners can capitalise on this. 12th man back at that beautiful, beautiful Central Coast Stadium. 2-1.
It's always an epic game against Sydney FC. The results have been mixed against them. I don't think we've beaten them at home since like 2017 or something like that. So, it'll be an interesting one because Sydney FC are going to be desperate for a result. I'm going to back my Mariners 1-0.
You know what? I don't think I'm going to back Sydney ever this year, regardless of what's happening, regardless of how they're performing. My head says one thing, my heart says another. My head says it will be a 1-1 draw, but my heart says Central Coast Mariners 2-0. So let's see. I'll get 2 bites of the cherry on that one. So there are predictions for round 4. Gents, thanks again for jumping on another A-League wrap-up round 3. Boys, I'm just going to get quickly to sign off with your channels, your plugs. So Joss?
Sunday Ballers on every social media platform, Spotify, Apple Pods for weekly podcast of the A-League, YouTube, Instagram for Bench Chat, where we just kind of have a bit more fun with it. And my personal is Joss the Child. I'll always squeeze that one in there.
Lucky, because that's how I found you on Insta when I tried to hit you up for this week's episode. And Lockie?
Coast Watch Football on all of the platforms, doing plenty of content on YouTube surrounding the Central Coast Mariners and the A-League in general.
Awesome. Some really good content on both channels, guys. So please, if you're watching this, go and like, share, and subscribe. There's some really good content that comes out. I'm trying to watch all the lives that happen on Insta, trying to catch up on what everyone's got to say throughout the week. So, like myself, if you can, go and check out those channels. Boys, thanks again, and we'll see you next week on the next one.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us.